What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to another creative process. Different tools that I have put into my daily creative readings that I am now putting into a simple format here for you. So let's dive in. This week, we are looking at planetary archetypes. Yes. So good. What does that mean? Planetary archetypes really are looking at the ways that planets and turning it into an archetype and personifying it and then working with that energy can help us to heal different aspects of our energy centers and ourselves and different behaviors that we have in these wonderful bodies. Each planet is associated with a specific energy center. So to summarize, the root center is associated with Mars. We have Mercury related to the sacral, Jupiter to the solar plexus, Venus to the heart, unsurprising, Saturn to the throat, the third eye to the sun, and the crown to the moon. So all of these different energy centers have specific planets with them. Now, I liked working with this. This is how I ended up, helping to heal some of my autoimmune symptoms that popped up kind of out of nowhere, right? Really, but somewhere. So working with this in particular, I'll give you the example further in this video, but for me, it helped me to really heal a lot of Mars energy that then connected to Jupiter and that sense of will in the solar plexus center. And don't forget too that the sacral along the way was healed too. And this also then led to me feeling comfortable coming out and beginning to transition. So the Tarot Handbook by Angeles Arian talks about planetary associations and in terms of things that we might say when we are in the negative register of those planets. So when it comes to these the planets, if you were in the negative register of Saturn, for example, you might say things like, I don't have enough time. There are too many details to focus on. It takes too much discipline to get this done. And that kind of frustrated energy, right? So that could be the negative register of Saturn. What I liked to do while reading through that book was to look at the positive register. So how can we turn these affirmations into the positive, right? So reverse engineering the results that we want, but also the energy that we want to cultivate, because that's really what it is about. So in order to cultivate the positive energy, if we flip this, there might be affirmations that would say, I have more than enough time to get everything done that I need to. My day stretches out in incredible ways. Divine timing is at work in my life. I have more than enough resources to get everything done that I need to complete. To use another example, with Mercury, in the Tarot Handbook, Angeles talks about, Mercury is saying, I can't, it won't work, or, oh, if only, like very wistful thinking, right? Wishful versus wistful thinking. And this would be like, oh, someday I will, or, it's very out of reach. It's very out of grasp. As many of these are. But if you were to flip that to the positive register, an affirmation for Mercury might sound something like, I'm capable of doing everything that my heart desires. Anything I put my mind to, I know I can achieve. I pay close attention to the details and the big picture in the execution of the tasks that I know I need to complete today. Really, affirmations are truths, right? They are truths that you live with you, that you live out in your life. So what are the truths of that? So let's keep moving down. If we were to look at Jupiter, for example, Jupiter might say, I am just not lucky. Don't say that. But sometimes we can feel that way, right? And if we're feeling it, it's almost as though we're saying it because our energy is just going and it's going out into the world. So we're more lucky than we know. But when we get attached to an outcome or a specific goal or a thing, it can make us feel unlucky if those things don't come to us in the way that we expected, right? So this is an affirmation to not to counter it, but to really recalibrate the energy that you might be feeling in it, right? A Jupiter affirmation might say, everything comes to me in exact perfect timing, and all of the resources that I need show up on my path exactly as I need them. Another one for Jupiter might say, opportunities don't come my way. That's for somebody else, right? I'm not that kind of people, but the opportunities are all around you, and feel it, right? It's important to feel it because we can say all of these things, but it's the feeling it that matters. So what does it feel like to be lucky? What does luck feel like when you get that parking spot? This is what I love to do. I love to do this as like intending to get a parking spot that that's close enough to a store that is a quick walk, right? And then lately I've been parking further away, but still. So it's like, parking spots, do it with little stuff to anchor in your luck. And that's both a Louise Hay and Abraham Hicks teaching, right? And I'm sure many others too. because it's such a fun way to amplify that energy of luck. Mars then, and this is the one that I worked with a lot, so you'll see an example for Mars later in this video. So Mars and Saturn. So for Mars, for example, I don't have enough energy. I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I just can't do it, right? How many times do we say this in a day? Mars is associated with your root energy. So if you're saying those things in a day, the opposites of those energies might sound something like, I have more than enough energy to complete everything on my list of to-dos or whatnot. But that's like the energy that we're approaching it with, right? I have more than enough energy. I have enough time and then some. Instead of saying I'm burnt out, you could say, but also be honest with yourself if you are. Don't neglect it and be like, I'm going to affirm that I'm fine. If you're not, don't. It's okay, because that's something that needs to be worked with and tended to as well. So if you say, oh, I'm burnt out, I just can't do it. I could do it, but I don't want to right now because I need to put my energy towards other things that make me feel good, and not from a place of selfishness. That's not a selfish affirmation. That's one that is more realistic, and outside of dreaming, you can dream your energy bigger. But at times, we can put our energy towards everything and anything, but do we want to, right? It's not whether or not I can or can't do something. It's, well, I don't want to. I don't want to. And it's getting comfortable saying that and thinking in those terms as well. So for Venus, you might say, well, I don't care, right? This is from the book, the Tarot Handbook. It's on page 200 to 203 or 4. So Venus might sound something like, I can't, I don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. What's the use? It's not going to work anyway. Like very futility is and meaning too. Futility and meaning. So it's like, why bother? Like, what's the point? And that sounds a lot like the solar plexus energy, but it's indicative of how they're all connected, right? They all talk to each other. They're all in conversation with each other. So the center that has these, you might, Venus energy, you might sound like, I care so deeply and passionately about the world around me. That's my superpower, is caring that deeply, giving such a big damn about things. I am compassionate. I have great empathy for the world. I have the capacity to carry not just what I care about, but then to hold space for what other people care about too. You could say it's going to work beautifully, and I don't need to know all the details because I'm inspired and I'm thrilled to let life and the universe fill in the details for me. These are all affirmations that you could possibly use. And then the sun and moon, according to the Tarot Handbook, which do align with these planetary archetypes. Those energies are more of talking yourself out of things, right? Talking yourself out of stuff. So, it's not gonna work. I don't know. It's like combining all of these energies, all of these energy centers, thusly, into this framework of why something will or won't work. So then that informs, and keep in mind the sun and moon are, according to the chakras, they are the upper energy centers, right? So it's like your overall perception, your grasp of the big picture, your grasp of the energy and the sort of the higher take, right? So you can talk yourself out of things. Why? Using all of the logic and all of the thoughts and all of the beliefs and all of the programming and templating that come from those lower energy centers. So healing Mars for me was such a beautiful process. It was also tapping into masculinity for me. Now, this was unique to me, but I'll give you the wisdom anyway that I picked up, because unique to me just meaning that this is how I healed the masculine that needed to come out as I started to transition. Because for me, it wasn't just about masculinity in terms of, will and taking action in the way it's defined traditionally. For me, it was about being able to articulate myself in the world and say, I am a trans person who wants to transition, right? So for me, that was power. That was what power represented. And it was personal power too. So healing Mars wasn't just about healing Mars. It was also about healing Mercury and Jupiter. Now, there are other associations, certainly, with planets and whatnot. But for me, Mars was about healing that sense of personal power and ability to take my experience and translate it into something really beautiful in my transness, and to say it's okay if no one agrees with me. It's okay if it's going to be hard. It's totally okay if people don't get it. This is who I am, and I love that human being, and they deserve They deserve to be in the world and to feel the warmth of sunlight. They deserve to be out in the world and be known. And that's what Mars energy can do, because then it translates. That's your Mercury, right? That's Mars and Mercury working together to articulate blessing, to articulate luck, to articulate all of these different things that we experience and can draw towards us. So in order to heal that, what I started to do was listening to podcasts with, by the Impact Theory by Tom Bilyeu, Lewis Howes, and when they had guests like David Goggins, oh my goodness, that human being, David Goggins, incredible. I also turned to sports psychology books, because what it did was it started to break down the dynamics of that sense of personal power and articulating that in the world. So putting it out in the world. How do you put yourself in the world in a way that empowers you? How do you feel empowered in the world, right? Your sense of power, it also relates to solar plexus energy. And that's where, for me, it was about healing that as well. Because if you don't feel lucky with your personal power, how are you going to? And Jupiter isn't just about luck, but it's about expansion too, right? So if you're not able to, and if you haven't yet healed that energy, or there are little aspects of it, right? Because we go through healing processes for our entire life. It doesn't stop. It doesn't end there. So those processes are ongoing. We don't finish. That's the point of life, isn't to fully heal. The point of life is to understand that the healing is where the light and the beauty get in, to use a quote from Leonard Cohen. So don't be afraid or feel like I didn't heal this thing. No, stuff's going to come up all the time. That's the beauty of being here. So why did I find listening to David Goggins, for example, so healing and powerful? For me, it was about understanding that I could have that power too. Right? It was understanding that someone that came from certain circumstances that I could relate to, they got past them. They were able to overcome, and not in a way that was just blasting through, but in a way that was, gave you practical tools, right? David Goggins often talks in interviews about how you need to start the day with something that you're in control of and that you can win, right? To start that feeling of I am already starting off winning something. So he talks about getting up at a reasonable time, where you have time in the morning to be the architect of your morning and your time and your day, right? To get up and do something like make your bed, because you're starting off doing something for you. You're starting off in a state of kind of winning your day, right? And he's put that in different interviews, but those types of behaviors, it's not that I hadn't been doing them. I hadn't been framing them in the context of something that empowered me and that gave me access to my own personal power. Sports psychology was another really great one. I will put a book here. I've talked about it in the daily creative readings before already, but I love this book, and sports psychology in general was really powerful for me when I was doing activism and community organizing more, which is interesting because sometimes it is like a marathon. It is like a marathon. On page 138 to about 140, this book talks about, simulation, which is really starting to envision different things that will happen. And, some people might say this is negative visualization, but you're not visualizing the struggle or the obstacle. You're visualizing the overcoming of it. You're visualizing yourself as empowered and getting past it. When I was going for phototherapy 3 times a week, I was, it left horrible burns on my body, and I was so excited to be done. And I will tell you, how do you visualize healing? I didn't visualize the healing of all the symptoms. I visualized how it would feel to have the last appointment ever at that place and to walk out the door knowing that I had done the work and that I had done the healing and that I had done the nutrition work to fix all of the way that the things that might have operated as a sieve, both energetically and nutrition wise and otherwise in my body, to allow these symptoms to pop up. And some people have symptoms without it being. This isn't a personal failing, so let's not categorize it that way either. Don't place guilt or shame on yourself if you're experiencing this, because sometimes it happens. It's okay. Don't use this as an excuse to harm yourself. Okay, you're too wonderful for that. Don't do that. So this, for me, it was visualizing the last appointment. How would it feel to drive home from that last appointment knowing that I would not have to do that again? Knowing that I would be free and my time would be free during that week. I would have so much more energy to put towards other things, right? What would that feel like? And those simulations, right? So, and yeah, the simulation was there for the phototherapy. It was there for going into that tiny little chamber. But but it was in service to something bigger that was the overcoming. So envisioning, for example, when I was in high school, I fractured my foot, and the doctors were amazed. They were surprised because I had healed what they said would take 6 months. I did it in 3 months. So creative visualization, basically. But, this book, one of the reasons why I love it and highly recommend it, if you are interested in this and if it calls to you, is using mental capacities and powers, right? Not exclusively, but as a function of the lower energy centers. Christina Lopes just did a video yesterday. I was like, yes, to the content in it, because it talks about the lower energy centers being really important for the articulation of higher energy centers. The point being, I visualized it. So I visualized healing. I visualized what it would feel like to walk around without that boot cast on. I walked around and I visualized what it would feel like to walk around without it on, but also to do things like gym class, to do things like going for walks with friends, to do things without it on. And how good that would feel to know that it was off, to that last, right? Envision the last, envision the first. That's another tool and function of this Mars for me, was part of that sports psychology, right? The simulation, using simulation to heal yourself. And again, it's visualization, yes. What I like about the notion of simulation and the way that it's worded in the book is that it talks about things like bad calls in terms of sports, right? Don't visualize the bad call. Visualize who you are after that. Visualize what you are doing after that. Envision what it is that you are feeling as that shift takes place, where something flips in you and the bad call becomes the momentum that you use to get to the next thing. That is really important. That was what I used. When you get past that wall, you realize how much you can do. And you realize that it's not about luck all the time. What you thought was luck, what you thought was someone being born into a body of an athlete, is something that you can craft from the ground up. You can build that. What you may have perceived as being completely inaccessible to you is so accessible to you. What you may have felt was completely outside your reach is so within it that you have no idea of how much further you can stretch. You have no idea of how much further you can take what it is that you want. And that's how Mars, personifying it and saying, okay, I'm going to be in my Mars today. I'm in my Mars, and surrounding myself with that energy and cultivating that energy. Now we're moving on to Saturn. So we think of Saturn as this sort of harsh disciplinarian, like that's the Sam the Eagle eyebrow, right? But one of the things I picked up and really enjoyed about seeing this in a personified way, this also was how some healing, some parental, I guess it's reparenting, but healing some parental things came up for me in the past year. And what really helped me was Dr. Nicole LePera's book, that one, How to Do the Work. That book helped, and it was the chapter on reparenting. So this is page 221 is where you'll find this in particular that I'm going to talk about right now, which is envisioning loving discipline, right? So seeing Saturn as a parent, yes, but seeing Saturn in the context of loving discipline as opposed to this like harsh, like nose to the grindstone, work yourself to the bone, hustle culture. No, right? It was really befriending the idea that discipline could be loving. And that's how we can personify Saturn as well. That's how we can take that and put it into a healing context, not just for ourselves, but our relationships with parents if we need to heal that, or parental figures. When we're kids, there's tons of grown-ups around, right? So who are those people? But instilling loving discipline so we can see the planets in a way that is healing. So from the book, some of the things that we can cultivate loving discipline through is by keeping small promises to yourself every day. Big one. Developing daily rituals and routines, saying no to things that don't serve you, holding boundaries even when you're uncomfortable doing so, disconnecting and spending time in self-reflection, as well as clearly stating your needs in objective, non-judgmental language. Massive shifts, right? And this isn't about getting it perfect. but just observe. So further to the point of Christina Loeb's video from earlier this week, I all of these things do this. So when it comes to healing modalities and things that help, so you'll find me referencing other people's work and bouncing back and forth a lot. It's okay. I quite love it. So nonetheless, that video that she posted talked about how they talk to each other, right? They talk to each other. So Saturn is associated with the throat chakra, but don't all of those expressions of Saturn energy, the Saturnian discipline energy, sound very related to the first three chakras? Don't they? Don't they though? Right? Like they're very associated with those three. And for my experience, it was the articulation of a loving discipline and the healing of that kind of discipline energy, because it was that masculine energy of the, again, associated with Mars, that masculine energy of go, 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 hustle, hustle, gotta do this, gotta do this. And that is what I also needed to heal in order to come out, right? Some people might disagree and say you don't need to heal those things, which is very true. Those disagreements are valid because everyone's experience of transitioning and being trans is kind of different. So it's important to understand that while this is my understanding and my experience, not everyone's is going to sound the same. So don't turn this into a monolith if you're listening and say, well, every trans person needs to heal their masculine. No, that's not the case at all. Some folks are very well and they're great. They're doing wonderfully. And this is just my journey, right? So maybe it'll be helpful to you, which is exactly why I'm sharing it. But healing Saturn is such a powerful act. And that's another way that if we take these planets and work with the archetypes of them, if we work with the energy associations and the energy center associations of them, we can see how it's almost like this symphony that just rockets through your energy centers when you are in a state of healing, right? When you're in a state of paying attention and cultivating that energy inward. It is beautiful. So this is really the practical application of your planetary archetypes and diving into them and how they can help you. And, even taking singers, right? Taking singers, making playlists of the planets, and working with them in a way that allows the energy of them to be accessible within your energy centers so that you can heal it and work with it, right? I'm a very visual person, so I like to be able to see things in a specific way. And this helps to take that energy and pull it outside of you so that you can see it outside of you, outside of your energy, outside of your aura. And it allows you, it unlocks this energy that it facilitates a calling back home of energy that you might have disconnected from yourself unintentionally or unconsciously, right? Again, everything is always unfolding exactly as it should be, and that's the blessing in things. That's the blessing in things. So this is your creative process for this week. If this resonated, please like and subscribe. It helps me to continue to grow the channel, but it really just tells me that this is the kind of content that you want to see and that this was helpful. There are other ways you can connect with me on the channel, so do check that out. But stay tuned for next week, where we're going to dive into a whole other topic that we've brought up and worked through in our daily creative tarot readings. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very well, my friends. Take care.